Grand strategy games on console are scarce. Now, hello and welcome to the Critical Cruise. I'm Monk, and today, yes, we are talking about my top 5 grand strategy games that you're actually available to buy on console, buy and of course play. Now, this isn't going to be in any kind of order. I'm not saying number 1 is the best, number 5 is the worst, but these are just my top 5 in general. We're going to be breaking them down, talking about them, and just explaining why I think you should pick them up. Every single one of these games are absolutely worth your time and your money. And of course, every single one of them, you're able to spend hundreds of hours within them. These are grand strategy games, so it's more of a case of, building up those layers and working through those different layers of strategy, of design. And yes, we're going to be talking about them. If I miss any of these games that you think deserve to be on this list, let me know. Unfortunately, the list ultimately isn't very long because being able to play grand strategy games on console is actually very, very difficult. And it's only been recently that we've started having these huge games be able to come onto console. Many of them have only just made it on Xbox One, on PlayStation 4, and of course now we've got PlayStation 5 and Xbox S and X. The games are getting bigger and better and more elite, I guess. Hopefully we're going to see a few more of those games over on Steam, over on Epic, actually make it on to console so more people can play, because not everyone has a top range PC. But anyway, let's get stuck into it. First up on our list, we have none other than Crusader Kings 3. Now, this game released in 2022. It's a little more than 2 years old now. It's been published by Paradox Interactive. Now, they are renowned for releasing some of the most in-depth strategy games you can possibly imagine, and Crusader Kings 3 isn't any short of that. Within this game, you take on the role of a dynasty. You begin your own dynasty. That's really what this game is about, is setting up a dynasty. And a family of which you hope will leave a lasting mark for centuries within your game. Now, that is difficult for you to really understand without playing, and playing those sort of games, if you haven't played them before, can be a little bit daunting. And Crusader Kings 3 is definitely in that bracket. The tutorial isn't great, but thankfully there are a ton of videos online to help you, including my own, of course. And of course, you can't start with your own dynasty. You can't start thinking about your dynasty. You have to worry about yourself, your own kingdom, going through the ranks, your own focus, how you want to level up your character, the children you want to have, how you want your children to be raised, who you're going to pimp them out for the better alliances. Or of course, if you want to focus on hereditary traits, straight at the beginning of the game, because of course you can get things like genius or beauty or heroic or giants, all of these kind of traits that you can kind of breed into your bloodline later down the line. And while you can certainly raise armies, hire mercenaries, found religious orders, it's the intrigue and the holding of courts that kind of grips you and holds you in this game. You can sway a foreign princess, for instance, or even assassinate a foreign king, maybe even your own liege, hoping to inherit all of those lovely titles. This is a game that definitely benefits from thinking ahead several moves, several centuries sometimes. But I guess that's the case with most grand strategy games too. Within Crusader Kings 3, you definitely have a number of different levels and different things to think about. But I think what really gives it the most amount of charm is that a lot of what you're doing is taking control or fighting against historical accurate players, which I think
offers a sense of uniqueness that you don't really get with the other grand strategy games of old. For instance, you could start in what you could say is the birthplace of England, and before that, taking on the rights of the titles of Wessex and Mercia and trying to form England for the very first time in history. Or, of course, you could go to 1066 and fight through some of those historical battles that we all know all so well and good. And of course, this isn't just Europe focused. You can go other places in the world as well. It really is baffling just how many stories are waiting to be told within Crusader Kings 3. Next up on the list, we have Civilization. Yes, we have Civilization 6. This is a monster of a game. Personally, what I love to do is play on a true life world map. I like to play with a historical character in a true life world start and see just how much of the world that I can conquer. It's a little bit tricky, it's a little bit long, absolutely. But fighting people like Genghis Khan, fighting people like Gandhi, trying to take over Britain against Victoria, it is fun. It's a lot of fun. I think what's most interesting about Civilization 6 is that they've managed to take the strategy side of this game and of this genre and really ramp it up to the max while keeping the comedy that we all know and love so well about this franchise. Now, this game did release in 2019. It's definitely, I doubt it's ever going to receive an update, especially since Civilization 7, I believe, has now been announced. But Civilization 6 offers a lot. There is a ton of add-ons, a ton of DLCs, and all of them just ramp up this game so much. If you've never played a Civilization game before, I'd be very surprised, but Civilization 6 offers everything that you can imagine. Obviously, you start off as just a single settler and, a single military unit, and you go around the board just expanding, making city after city. Within Civilization 6, you can do alliances and trades and all that kind of jazz. You've got your science skill tree as well as your civics. You can explore via the water or on land. You can really specialize as to how you want to play the game based on which empire, which leader you choose. But one of the best things about this game, in my opinion, is the fact that Sean Bean actually narrates.
Great beasts of the Stone Age. To man taking his first upright steps, you have come far. Now begins your greatest quest. From this early cradle of civilization on towards the stars.
Personally, I love the actor, and I just think that it just helps add that extra sense of charm to an already charming game. But seriously, if you played this game originally when it very first came out and you haven't been back since, you really do need to step back into it because the DLCs and the changes that they made to this game just add so much more. There's secret societies, like for instance, you could have vampires be in your empire and you can use vampire lords and build vampire castles and stuff like that. There's other societies as well. There's also governors where you can employ a governor to work for each of your cities and they come a load of other perks and stuff like that. There is barbarians have been reworked. Well, they will eventually become an actual city state and something that you can hire as mercenaries and stuff like that too. There's also heroes from folklore. So in other words, you could hire Maui or the Monkey King to be in your empire, and you use them to kind of head your armies and all kinds of extra bonus stuff like that. But seriously, there's been a lot added, all of which just help make this game not only better, but deeper as well. There is a deeper level to this game now. And I think that it was a really good way to go to turn this into a grand strategy game, one in which you can spend hundreds and hundreds of hours within. Up next, and a slightly different take on a grand strategy game, is of course Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlords. Now this game has featured heavily on the channel over the years and is a phenomenal game. This one really allows you to go deep in. You get to take control of your leader, your king. You get to take control of that battlefield, not only moving your troops along the battlefield, but actually wielding a sword, an axe, or a bow along with them. And this game kind of merges one of my favorite things about these kind of games is being able to watch or ride along on horseback with cavalry units while trying to also be strategic in how I want my infantry to move forward, or if I want to bring my bowmen up, and how I want to actually, engage in combat here. Now, this game has only been out on console for a bit less than 2 years. It's been published by Tau World Entertainment, and the updates for this game have been very slow on console, but we have received them. So hopefully going forward, it's gonna keep being supported and keep changed, because I know that on PC there is an awful lot for this game out there. But even as it is in its present state, I think that Mountain Blade Bannerlords has an awful lot to offer. Now, yes, you do have this side of it where you get to control your troops on a battlefield, and sometimes in absolutely huge numbers. Now, depending on what console you're actually playing this on, is going to matter quite a lot on how many troops you're actually going to be able to field, especially if you want the decent graphics. But the game also offers almost a top-down view of the world and the continent in which you are going to be playing in as well. Now, yes, you do get to head an army eventually if you want to go down that route, but you can kind of do what you want to do as well. You could focus on being a trader, for instance, and try and build up a trade empire. You could try and be a blacksmith, for instance, which is, by the way, the best single way of earning money in the game. But you also have a chance to rule a kingdom and stretch your kingdom, waging wars against several kingdoms at a time, eventually, hopefully, making an empire where you will go around and conquer every single town in this continent. That is something that is very difficult. And there's also a dynasty feature here too. You can get married, you can have children, and of course, given time, your children can grow up and take over the game. You can die in combat, or of course you can retire and then resume as your child. But that's kind of cool. And if you don't want the added pressure of being a king yourself, you can pledge yourself to one of the other kingdoms and just go about your way on your merry way being a vassal. This is yet another huge grand strategy game in which you have a variety of different things that you can choose to focus on and worry about. And of course, there's an RPG factor as well. You have a character that you can level up and get perks for and stuff like that. But this is surprisingly in depth, especially when it comes to actually having a kingdom, because you can hire mercenaries or create policies in which will be represented throughout your land. And it is without a doubt a game that I would highly recommend to everyone to at least try out. It's probably not going to be what you expect, but if you give it some time, it is a phenomenal game. Once again, the tutorial within Bannerlord is not great, but there are a number of different videos online on YouTube, on my channel and others, that will be able to help you out. Next up, we have the newest on the list. We have Age of Wonders 4. This one is set in a fantasy world where you get to command a race of orcs or elves or whatever it is you want. You can even be a dragon if you want. You can raise an empire of the undead. Really, it is up to you and your mind, and of course whatever DLCs are currently out at the time, because this has received an awful lot of regular DLCs since release. This released in 2023, and of course it is published by Paradox Interactive as well. This is a bit of a unique game in a sense that, yes, this is a grand strategy game in which you control a leader. You have to build up cities. You have to take on the enemy. You can negotiate for alliances. You have a ton of different avenues when it comes to perks and abilities and, leveling systems or tech systems, I should say. But you also get turn-based combat within this game, which is interesting. It actually works surprisingly well. Of course, you don't have to control every battle. I know that a lot of grand strategy games kind of, when it comes to the combat, it's almost automated a lot of the time. Within here, obviously, you do get to control every single unit. Every unit has different abilities. You also have the ability to cast kind of like overseer magic on the battlefield, which is interesting as well. Depending on what tomes you choose, that adds to the strategic value. I struggle to say that word apparently, on the game. And I feel like it offers a nice change of pace. I certainly feel like it gives you the ability to win battles that you probably wouldn't have won if you had have just automated it, which again is quite nice. It's a good way to kind of turn the battle. Sometimes the AI can be a bit of a git. But this game is surprisingly deep. One of the things I have to commend Age of Wonders for doing the best, however, is the multiplayer, is the PvP, the 1v1. I think that it's so good. It works very, very well. This is a game that I've played with a friend multiple times. We've had multiple different matches, and we've never had an issue. Now, sometimes with grand strategy games, jumping in, jumping out can be tricky, but it works here very, very well. So I think it's done a great job at that. And of course, one of my favorite features is being able to create a hero and of course, a race that is then playable and is completely unique to your build. You get to create them however you want. But one of the things that I love the most is when you complete a map, they kind of like ascend to a pantheon. And then if you play other games, other matches, that character that has ascended can reappear in your games at a later date. I think that's really cool. I think it's a really cool aspect, and it just adds to the depth of this game. And last but certainly not least, we have Stellaris. Stellaris is a massive grand strategy game. We could kind of just leave it at there, but seriously, it's huge. It has also been published by Paradox Interactive and it released in 2019. So it's about 5 years old now, and it's certainly got a ton of DLCs and add-ons. So that way, if the base game doesn't give you something that suits you, there's definitely more for you to have a look at. Now, this game starts off by you creating or choosing a race. You then get that race to however you want. You start on a simple world, around a single star. But my God, does this game get complicated very quickly. You start kind of as your troops, your nation is already starbound, they're already in space, able to probe. You start with a single warship and a single science vessel. And from there, you have to try and conquer the galaxy. As you can see, then I had 12 megastructures and 101 planets that I have managed to achieve on this current playthrough. And that obviously isn't easy to get to. You have to go through a lot of research, spend a hell of a lot of time in the game and learning the different systems and things that this game has to offer. But there really is scope for spending hundreds of hours within this game. And if you like that kind of sci-fi deal, then Stellaris has you covered. When it comes to the different amount of things you're actually able to do in this game, it's shocking because you're able to make Dyson spheres, of course, harnessing the power of a star, for your empire to give you guys power, for instance, or able to create colossal mega structures, able to like Death Stars almost, able to go to planet, just destroying life in one stroke. I believe the biggest map we can do on console currently is that of 600 stars. Of course, those stars have in multiple planets most of the time, so you can imagine just how many planets can be operating. Not only have you got other empires to be worrying about, you've also got special things put in the game just to keep every level of it different and interesting, including higher powers, empires that were once colossal empires that became dormant. You can awaken them, and that can start its own quest line. Because, yes, there are quests in this game as well. Lots of them, in fact. You can be bombarded by tons of different things that you and your empire are interacting with at the same time. In fact, one of the core features about this game is you and your little science vessel. You take that science vessel to unexplored space and survey the systems. You surveying those systems can unlock a variety of different missions and things for you to interact with. Some of them could harm your empire. Some of them you can get goodies from your empire, and that will empower you guys for the next, say, 100 years. Now, me, when I grew up, I was very heavily influenced by things like Star Trek. Absolutely love Star Trek. Absolutely love Star Wars as well. And the Empire creation is so good that you're able to replicate several of those species. Like, for instance, if you ever like the Borg, you're able to build just the most amazing Borg empire you can imagine, with a hive mind, for instance, all of you being robotic and all of you going down that route. Or of course you could go a little bit more Sith. Now, there is actually DLCs and mods on console, I may add, that enable you to have a republic, and you of course be the leader of that republic, that collective of minds, which again, I think it's kind of cool. The whole line saying that I am the Senate, it works so good within this game. But there you have it, guys. Those are my top 5 grand strategy games available on console. Now, you will forgive me if I haven't been able to show off these games at their best. Trying to do so in any stretch of the imagination in time is a little bit difficult, because these are gigantic games. All of them you're able to spend hundreds of hours in. All of them now are a little bit old as well, so you're able to get them relatively cheap. Even the DLCs and expansions, many of these games have multiple DLCs, multiple expansions, and you're able to get them all on sale pretty often. Let me know down in the comments if I didn't mention one that you think should be on the list, or of course if you have played one of these and you absolutely love it and would recommend it as well. I'd be really glad to see which ones you would recommend to others to try. But until next time, I've been a monk, we've been in Crusader Kings, and I will see you in the next video real soon. Until then, take it easy and happy gaming.